With the 25-26 admission season upon us, and many schools choosing to reinstate their testing policies, it's going to be absolutely insane as high school juniors and seniors rush to take both the ACT and SAT. In my area, testing sites for the fall are already booking up, so high school seniors will have 1 or 2 chances to take their test before applications are actually due. Now, I was lucky enough to get to take the ACT the summer before my senior year, where I was able to score in the mid-30s. But here's the thing, with summer break and having just finished AP tests, I neglected actually studying, leaving myself with only 1 week to study before taking my exam. So how did I manage to score 30 plus with only 1 week of studying? In this video, I'm going to share how I was able to do that. It should be noted that I'm not a teacher or a tutor or anything. This is purely based off my own experience in the score that I was able to achieve as a result. I also know that a lot of people are taking both the ACT and the SAT. While I didn't take the SAT, I took the PSAT, and so I know that these strategies that I'm going to share will work. What I'm going to share is just based off my experience taking the ACT. However, for those wanting to take both of the tests, I would recommend that you don't. By sticking to one test, you have the opportunity to super score and achieve the highest score possible with that super score, rather than taking 2 separate tests where inevitably one is going to outweigh the other, essentially. Now, for my actual studying, I basically used 3 main resources. I used the official ACT prep book, as well as online resources from ACT that included old actual tests that had been given before. The tests in the back of the prep book have never actually been used on a testing day. And then I also used YouTube for content review. I know that a lot of people use Khan Academy. I just didn't find the time or find it necessary to use Khan Academy when I was able to use YouTube, and then of course had the questions from the test. My test was Saturday, June 8th, so I started studying for my test the Sunday prior on the 2nd, and I began at 8 a.m. to simulate a test day, taking a full-length multiple choice practice test. And then I reviewed my answers and did a content review over the questions that I either guessed on or actually got wrong, using both the content review from the prep book as well as YouTube. From that initial test, I knew that I only needed to hardcore study on English and math for review purposes. So over the next 5 days, I took a section of each every single day and reviewed that with the help of YouTube and the content review. And those tests came from the back of the prep book as well as the old exam tests. Beyond that, all other studying, including for reading and science, was basically just strategy based and did not include a whole bunch of other content review. In terms of the English tests, the best strategies that I can give you are in terms of pacing. You're going to have 45 minutes for 5 passages, which works out to about 9 minutes per each individual passage. It should be noted that the primary focus of this test is grammar. So to save time, you can basically jump around in each of the passages to where the individual questions are, where the underlined sections are, and read a little bit before, obviously, that section, and then after. And usually you can comprehend enough to be able to answer each of the questions. However, some of the passages actually have review questions at the end that ask you about the passage as a whole. And for those passages, I actually recommend reading the entire thing to have a thorough understanding and better be able to answer those questions. When it comes to math, you have 60 minutes for 60 questions. The questions are grouped by difficulty, so the first 20 are going to be more easy, then the next 20 are going to be more medium, and then you'll finally end with the final questions being hard questions. I would recommend going completely in order. For the ACT, all of the questions are all worth the same amount of points, essentially. So there's no harm in, obviously leaving the harder questions that you're not going to be able to answer for later and, getting the easy points. You should be moving quicker through the first 20 questions. You should not be taking a full minute, as that will obviously take away from your ability to have a longer amount of time for each of the questions once you get to the hard final questions. For reading, I actually recommend reading the entire passage as a whole rather than going back and forth between the questions and the passage before actually then going into the questions. I think that this just helps better with comprehension. And then in terms of being able to do that quickly, what I recommend is actually using your pencil and dragging along with the words and the lines and making your eyes follow the tip of your pencil. This exponentially increased my ability to read at a fast pace, and it didn't affect my comprehension at all. For science, because there's usually only 1 or 2 questions that are asking about actual specific content that you would need outside information for, the studying for this is really just about speed. You need to be able to quickly identify what type of question you're being asked. And then I recommend actually kind of drawing out the problem of what you know and what you don't, and then using that to then answer the questions. The night before the test, I would recommend setting out your number 2 pencils, your graphing calculator, your testing ticket and ID, as well as a snack that you might have during your break. These are just all of the important materials that you're going to need to have with you to have success. And I find setting them out the night before really improves productivity the morning of your exam. I then recommend getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep so that you can feel refreshed the next morning. Now, this is just the format I followed for scoring in the mid-30s with 1 week of studying. I know that many people are still shooting for perfect scores, but honestly, anything 30 plus is a phenomenal score that puts you in the top 5% of all test takers. Some people still may study for months on end to achieve a top score, but that really just wasn't realistic for me in my situation, and this is what worked for me. If you have any questions about the ACT or studying for the ACT, drop them down below in the comment section, and I'll try to answer every one of them. Remember to like and subscribe for more similar content as well. And again, I'm not a professional. If you have a tutor, please do what they recommend for you. Again, this is just what worked for me. I hope to catch you in the next video.